G'day guys, Glenn Maxwell here, and today I'm going to take you through a few of my favourite shots that I like to play in a game. One thing that I really take a lot of pride in is my setup during a T20 game. And at the start of my innings, it's generally a little bit different to when it's a bit more later in the back innings. At the start, pretty neutral stance, slightly open, back leg on about middle and off, front leg just a little bit more open, maybe around leg stump. But to be able to sort of set up a little bit straighter, be able to cover my stumps, be in a good position to hit the ball straight down the ground, and anything wider, be able to use the pace and hit through point. As I start to get into my innings, my front foot probably comes a little bit wider to give myself that clearance to be able to swing the hands through. My footwork becomes probably a little bit less important in T20 after I've been in for a few balls, and I'm relying on my hands to actually score through both sides of the ground. And having that front foot a bit more open allows me to swing hard and be able to clear the fielders on the deep square and deep fine leg boundaries and deep mid wicket. So that's generally where I'm setting up for, and I feel like I'm still in a good enough position to be able to hit over point, cover and mid off, to be able to use my hands and get the ball over those infielders. So I feel like that's a really good thing for me to start, nice and straight, be able to still hit the ball down the ground. As I'm starting to look for boundaries, it becomes a bit more open, sometimes even going deep and back and across to actually give them less of an area to bowl to and try and put pressure on them to miss the wide line or try and miss straight. So being able to make those little adjustments just before the bowler's about to bowl is a really good way to try and put them off and hopefully get a ball that's in your area where you can score. I'm going to start with the one that everyone should learn how to play, and that's an on drive. The on drive is the one that gives a batter the most pleasure, beating the bowler just on the other side and being able to hit a boundary straight down the ground. And to hit an on drive, everything needs to be in perfect sync. So your shoulder needs to be nice and straight, pointing towards the target. It's a shorter step into the ball to be able to actually give yourself the time to adjust and get that bat coming through nice and straight. So when I'm setting up to hit an on drive, it's not a big stride into the ball. If you're big stride, you're overstriding and you can't actually get the bat down. So it's actually picking up the line nice and early, it's nice and straight, shorter stride, and then being able to drop that bat coming through nice and straight, and place it back past the mid-on fielder, get yourself a boundary, get yourself in your innings, and then you can play the expensive stuff straight after that. All right, going into another shot that I absolutely love playing. You would have seen it on TV a bunch of times during the Big Bash, playing for Australia, and that's a reverse sweep. Everyone's favourite shot. Coaches absolutely hate it, but it's one of those shots that can get you some easy runs. The field is generally never set for it, but to be able to access that part of the ground behind point and hit it in different areas and really play with the bowler as well. So one of the things I look for is obviously the field set to start, having a few big gaps over here, and then deciding which type of reverse sweep, and there's 3 of them. That's right, there's 3. There's one that, a reverse lap, so a reverse lap, you're stepping a bit straighter down the wicket, you're creating a little bit of room for the ball to come, and you're leaving the bat out there and just running it down past short third man, hopefully get 2 or 3, move him a bit finer, and then you go to the second reverse sweep, which is the harder one, where you're getting your leg a bit more across, have a bit more of a swing, and you're actually trying to whack it behind point and move that deep point fielder a little bit squarer. And that brings us to the third one. That's when you can play the third one, the switch hit, where you're changing your hands over and you're trying to whack it opposite-handed and hit it over cover. And then they have no idea what to do with the field. So there's your 3 reverse sweeps. You've got the reverse lap, creating that room, getting your leg out of the way, being able to run the ball off the face of the bat. The second one, harder sweep, which is basically a sweep shot, just in reverse. And then the switch hit, changing your feet around, swinging nice and hard, hitting over cover. And the final one, the one that everyone wants to try and hit as far as humanly possible, and that's a slog sweep. It's what everyone thinks they need to do to hit a boundary or a 6. And to be honest, a lot of the top players do too. So to hit a slog sweep, you've got to give yourself a bit of clearance, try and get ourselves a big enough swing, keep our legs out of the way to make sure that we can access the ball. If you get in the way and you have to swing across your leg, you lose that bit of extra power. So when we're hitting a slog sweep, we try and get that leg as far away as possible, not too far, because then we actually can't reach the ball. To be able to give ourselves a little bit of clearance, hoping the ball's around there or creating that line. So even if the ball's there, that's when we go a little bit wider. So if the ball's just outside off, give ourselves a bit of clearance, get nice and low, and power all the way through it. And that's a down, through and up. So you're down into the ball, as you're hitting it, coming back up. And that'll get yourself nice penetration, hopefully clear that deep mid-wicket fielder by a long way, and then cheer and celebrate with your friends. So one of the things that makes me successful in T20 cricket is the way I'm able to use my wrists and my forearms to actually get the ball into different gaps. So a lot of players will keep their elbow nice and high, have control of the ball in that way, where I try and use my hands and my bat speed to actually get the ball into gaps in different areas. So a ball that might be pitching on the stumps might need to go a little bit straighter and maybe even through the leg side. I'm able to use my hands to then get it to the offside or even behind square. So with my hand speed, being able to make adjustments at the last moment to maneuver the ball. Sometimes it can get you into trouble, but it's actually a great way of being able to limit where the bowler can bowl and not let them bowl multiple balls at you as well. So being able to use my hands and not sort of have my elbow too stiff, because all of a sudden my hands actually can't move as much. So as soon as my elbows are nice and straight, I can use my hands and wrists to actually maneuver the ball either way. So even when the ball's nice and full, I still feel like I can use my hands to get the ball up over the straight fielders, try and get boundaries down the ground, which is why you'll see a lot of batters get to that position and use their hands to then try and flick under the ball and use their hand speed to then get leverage on the ball. So sometimes if you're going into that position and try and use your elbow, it's really hard to get leverage. It needs to be a perfect ball with length to actually work up on. So if I'm in that position, I can still keep low and use my hands to then flick the ball up, get that leverage, get the ball over the infielders, and try and have success that way. It's a different way of going at it. A guy like Josh Buttler does it really well. Bit of a hockey background, but being able to flick his wrists through the ball and hit the ball really hard through certain gaps makes him really hard to bowl to. So even a Yorker, he can still get that power by using his hand speed and wrists to flick the ball and hit it through gaps. So different way of going about it in T20 cricket, but not a very easy thing to learn. It's one of those things that you've got to watch really hard, watch a lot of slow-mo replays and watch the lateness that people can actually use their wrists and flick the ball into gaps. So one of the things I'm known for is my play against spin bowling, and one of those things that I do really well is field manipulation. So as soon as I come out to bat, I try and take all the information about the field. I try and take all the information out of the wicket. So generally I'm coming in at number 4. I've seen a few balls of spin bowled on the TV or on the big screen, so I know if it's spinning, what the bounce is like, and then I'm taking that information in before I go out to bat and trying to adapt that into a game plan of how I'm going to attack it. So if it's not spinning too much, but the bowler's bowling a nice length, I know that I can play generally a long way out in front or use my feet and go back and hit the ball in the gaps and try and manipulate the field along the ground as safe as possible. If it's a little bit different, the bowler's bowling nice and slow, gives me an opportunity to chip the ball into different areas in the field. So a lot of the time cover's quite close, try and stop a single. Generally over the top of him or either side of him, you'll get 2 runs quite easily. So a lot of the time I'm looking for that, and to do that against spin bowling, you've actually got to create room. So a lot of the time you'll see either guys go that way with their back foot to create their hips and to aim that direction, or even coming out and then ending up in the same position. So when you come out to the crease and that back foot swivels around, you're in that position to then hit through cover. So that's an area that you can really look to exploit against spin bowling, especially if there's not too much spin. And obviously another area that I look to exploit is the 1 over backward point, which is a reverse sweep for me. Being able to actually cover the spin, hit the ball up, and if I need to go over the top, and move that deep point fielder to make that shot over cover a little bit safer. So if I can have that deep point nice and square, long off I feel is out of the game, that I can actually chip it over there. If there's any extra spin, I feel like the ball's still going to land safe because there's no cover fielder there as well. So being able to hit it in that position really gives you an advantage and makes the bowler bowl straighter to you, where you can then exploit them on the leg side and hopefully use your legs and try and run a couple of 2s, bring that fielder in a little bit closer, and then hit it past him or over him to play around with the spin bowlers and put pressure on them. And then as you go into the innings, you're looking for him to bowl a little bit fuller, using your feet, or just looking for anything full to then go back over their head, try and hit the sight screen as much as you can. So they're a couple of the areas I try and exploit the spinners. Being really quick on my feet, making sure that I'm always looking for that full one, but being able to press back as soon as they bowl a bit shorter. So one of the big key things I think facing spin is that first initial movement. Before they let go of the ball, it's having a little press, getting into a low position and looking like that you're coming at them every time. In that position, you're able to push back and actually use the full extent of your crease. People that sort of stand up a little bit more upright have trouble that slow movement and they get stuck on the crease, and that's where spinners can exploit you get your LB caught behind or whatnot. So being able to get in that position, put the bowler under a lot of pressure, even from there you can still go again, go forward. There, you can still get out of your crease and put pressure there. So that little press gets you in a nice athletic position to then push back, go either side of the ground. So there are a couple of tips that I use against spin, but that first press is so important. Puts pressure on them, they might drag it short, give an easy pull shot or a cut shot, and then you're away. So sometimes when we're facing a really good bowler, he gets a couple of dot balls on us. A couple of times in my career, I've felt like the bowler's starting to get on top of me. So being able to compartmentalise that, take in all the information. If he's bowled a couple of good balls, it's okay to respect him, but most of the time, the bowler's going to go searching, trying to get you out. So trying to be patient enough, knowing that you can make it up either the next over or a couple overs later, being able to soak it up, contain your ego, take a single, or just get through that over. Bowlers are allowed to bowl a good over. So I think for that, being able to actually stay really good with your plans, still have a really simple mindset or simple game plan, whether it's a ball spinning away, trying to hit the ball through mid-off, ball spinning back in, trying to get through mid-on or square leg, being able to stay in that for as long as you possibly can, and then hopefully if he bowls another over, then you start to put some pressure on him. So that's one of the things that we try and work on is, if they bowl a good over, respect it, but know that they're probably going to bowl another over, and that's when you try and put pressure on them. So from the first ball or two of the over, that's where you try and put them under pressure. Then the rest of the over, you can control the run rate and do what you like. So the first two balls of the over are really important against any bowler, but especially against a spinner. If you can get a boundary in those first two balls, they're under pressure immediately. So one of the things you're always looking for, you've got your plan A. If they bowl really well to that, your plan B, plan C, try and get through it that way. So as long as you have those specific plans and you stick to them, you'll have success. All right, so there are a few of my tips for T20 batting. Hopefully you can use them to your advantage, but now I want you to go into beast mode and take the game on, try and hit as many sixes and win your team the game. Great work.